I suppose I should say good afternoon, even though it's not all that good. Hi everybody. This is day 7 of the war in Ukraine. I'm smiling because I'm anxious. For the last 2 days, I couldn't ascend the stairs to the second floor. This room is on the second floor of my mother's house, where there's light from the big window so that I could film something for you and update anything. 2 days ago, I got news that the animal shelter where I took my little Alice from burnt down. The animals were let out of the kennels because the kennels were wooden and they were on fire, so all the animals were just running around the field and everything. Some of them got lost. The cats were all inside the building, but some of them had to be let out as well because the building caught fire. As far as I know, the animals are okay because the internet connection there is not very good, so we weren't able to get a lot of information. All the food, Alice, stop it. All the food burned down, so there was nothing to feed the animals with. I cried like this for an hour because I couldn't do anything. I'm too far away. There's no way for me to get through the city to the shelter so that I could help them. And that was the last straw for me, I think, because I was not scared. I was just angry for all of these days. And at that moment, I just realized that even innocent animals that have nothing to do with this are suffering so much. People are leaving their animals when they have to run sometimes. Purebred nurseries have to give away very expensive puppies and kittens because there's no way for them to be taken care of. And while I don't think that that's a bad thing, that they're being, taken into good homes, just the amount of suffering that the animals have to take on alongside their humans is heartbreaking to me. Some news, what has been happening in the last 2 days, other than the shelter. Yesterday, in a little town called Chernihiv, it's right next to the capital, there was an oil tank hit, and it's still burning. So, they can't put it out, obviously, so it's just going to keep burning until it burns all the oil that's in there. What else happened? I'm sorry, I don't have a script, so I'm just trying to remember everything off the top of my head. If I hear one more time that we need to be denazified and that our president is a Nazi apologist and he's a Nazi and he's doing this and that and the other, I'm going to scream. First of all, our president is Jewish, okay? He's the grandson of a last surviving member of a Jewish family that was repressed back in that war, and if I hear the word Nazi used to him one more time, I'm going to scream. Hello, my love. Hello. What else happened? Other good news. A marriage was registered in a bomb shelter yesterday, which is sweet and excellent. Yeah? Your little baby? We're afraid. Some of my friends who have kids have left the city. They just got on the train and just told us because I suppose when you have kids, everything's in a little bit of a different perspective. Just push the door. She's silly. So, I'm not leaving the city. I'm gonna stay here unless they make me leave. It's all very scrambled in my head. I'm going to put up some news again in the description of the video because we're so tired. We're so scared and tired and angry. I can constantly hear explosions outside my window. When I take the dog for a walk, we're at the edge of the forest and I can hear tanks roaring in the forest. But the territorial defenses guys that are patrolling our streets said that that's our tanks, so it's all fine. But still, they're saying that they might try to take the city from another direction, which is the direction where I live currently. This district was pretty peaceful so far. But if they try to take the city from this direction, we're going to have to run somewhere, just into another part of the city. So that's going to be fun. Please update anybody and everybody you know on what's actually happening in Ukraine. Read Ukrainian news sources, talk to Ukrainians, talk to me, talk to anybody else you know. If you have any questions about anything that's going on in Ukraine right now, just drop me a comment, or if you don't want to drop a comment, just write me a message. I'm on Instagram. You can write me a personal message and I'm going to tell you everything you want to know. Because I'm a little anxious on camera, I'm forgetting things that I wanted to talk about. By the way, here's a statistic of all the military tech and everything that's been destroyed from the Russian side during these last 7 days. Yes. So what's going on? I don't know what she's doing. She's climbing under the bed and her little clickety-clackety claws. Are you having fun? Yeah? Oh, little face. She's keeping me going. Okay, let's talk about books now. Let's talk about books. I'm going to do my January and February wrap-up because time isn't real. I read 2 books in January, I read 2 books in February. I read Verity by Colleen Hoover in January. It was 3 stars, it was fine. I never read anything by Colleen... Oh, sorry, let me let her out. 1 second. I'm back. She just wanted to go downstairs. Verity by Colleen Hoover. I never read anything by Colleen Hoover before because she writes romance. And from what I know, it's pretty fucked up romance as well. Like, I don't have anything against fucked up relationships. It's kind of interesting. But I don't really read romance for romance's sake. So I've never been interested in her books. But Verity was marketed as a thriller. And from what I heard from Books and Lala, who's read all the Colleen Hoover books and who's a thriller expert, Verity isn't really that much of a thriller. It's like a transition into thrillers for people that have been reading romance. This is what Lala said. Kayla, sorry. And I decided to read Verity because the synopsis sounded interesting. It's about this young woman who gets invited to finish a book series by a very popular writer called Verity something, who had an accident and is now catatonic. She can't finish her novels, so they need somebody whose writing style is close to Verity's so that she can finish the series. And she moves into Verity's house, and this romance starts between her and Verity's husband. And what I enjoyed most about this book, there were parts of it where she goes to Verity's office to find her notes on the novels, and she finds a diary of hers. And the diary entries were the most interesting part to me because they were pretty fucked up. This is not a spoiler. But the diary entries were the most interesting part for me. And I think that there were a couple of plot holes that could have been avoided easily. So, I mean, it was fine. It kept my attention. I kept wanting to turn the pages, find out what happens. But at the end, it was just 3 stars. The ending was anticlimactic. I expected it from the very beginning. And it's just, I mean, it was fine. It was 3 stars. Next book I read in January is Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. It's a short horror novel that was one of the horror choices for Bookreads Awards, and everybody who read it was just raving about this book, so I thought I should read it, obviously, because I love horror, and I love horror in literature. I don't like horror films, but I like horror in literature, and this seemed like my type of horror, like something's going on. This woman, she lives in a very idyllic community, but you're not allowed to change anything. You're only allowed to paint your house one of the 5 approved shades of white, like mother's milk and eggshell. And her husband is this perfect, beautiful, amazing man, and she keeps talking about how she's been made for him, how she's perfect for him, and just her whole existence is surrounded by him, just centered on him and serving him. But she's not allowed to go into the basement of her house. He keeps saying that it's like because there are tools lying around and she's gonna hurt herself, but there's something there. And it's written in this surreal way, and I enjoyed the writing, but the plot that everybody said was terrifying was just okay for me. I understand how intrinsically it should be terrifying what's going on to this woman, but I understand that it's scary, but it didn't scare me, you know? So it was only 3 stars. In February, I read 2 books. I read the, what's it called? The Wonderful Wizard of Oz or something like that by Elfenbaum, the fairy tale that we all read. I read it because I had an order in my Etsy shop for a few letters from the characters of this book. And I've never read it. I've only like seen the adaptations and something like that. It wasn't part of my childhood, this book, for some reason. So I thought I'd read it, and it was pretty short. It was fine, again. Like, I mean, it's a children's book, so my opinion is that a children's book, a good children's book, a truly good children's book, should be written in a way that's gonna allow it to be enjoyable, not only for children, but also for adults. The Graveyard Book is a great example of that. Matilda is a great example of that, you know, things like that. But this was fine. Like, it was okay. It was very clearly just a children's story, and just for entertainment and moral purposes, teaching you about what heart is, what intelligence is, and stuff like that. And it was alright. 3 stars. And the next book that I read in February was Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Kindred was on my TBR list for a very long time, because about maybe a couple years ago now, before COVID, no, it was during COVID, but it was for a long time ago, I wanted to read all the vampire books I could. And I was looking through Goodreads lists, just like BuzzFeed lists, asking for recommendations. And in some lists, I found Kindred mentioned as the surreal vampire book. If you read Kindred, you know that there are no vampires in there. I have no idea how it got onto a list about vampire books, but I'm glad that I had it on my TBR, because it was an excellent book. 4 stars. It's a book about Dana. She's a black woman in 70s, I think it's 70s in America. She just celebrated her 26th birthday. She and her husband just bought a new house and are moving in. And as they're like unpacking and having dinner, she spontaneously disappears and gets transported into antebellum America, Maryland. And she saves this white boy from drowning. And then her father points a shotgun in her face, and she realizes what's going on, what time period she's in, and stuff like that. And she keeps transporting back and forth between these 2 timelines. And every single time she does, she has to save this little shit. It's a book about slavery. It's a book about identity and how easy it is for people to get adapted to fucked up shit. It broke my heart quite a few times, made me angry. Dana is an excellent protagonist. She's just so fiery and feisty, and she's so intelligent. And just the way she talks to people, like even when she knows that she can get hit over the head for it, you know, just her voice. She had a voice, you know, when a character just has their own personality that it jumps out at you from the page. So I'm glad that I, for another reason, had this book on my TBR. So I'm glad I read it. That's all for my January and February wrap up. I hope that in March I can read much more. I hope the explosions outside are not going to distract me too much. To be honest, I don't even notice them anymore. It's just like, oh, there's a siren and an air raid. Fine. And I just keep reading, you know. So, sorry, I'm so anxious. I'm gonna need to go and have some water and calm the fuck down. Thanks so much for watching. Please spread the information about what's going on in Ukraine. Ask me any questions you have. Send this video or my first video to anybody who wants to know something about Ukraine. Send them Ukrainian Twitters. Send them our charity funds where you can donate to our army. Anything and everything. Just even you thinking about us, even if you can't do anything other than pray, that's a great help. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna hope and try to see you tomorrow. Slava Ukraini!